What's up, guys? My name is DJ Swivel, and on this week's episode of In the Mix, I'm going to be breaking down my mix of Holiday by Lil Nas X. But before we get started, make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment, roll the intro.
DJ Swivel
in the mix.
All right, what's up, guys? I am DJ Swivel, and you are in the mix. Today, we are going to be breaking down Holiday by Lil Nas X. This is a song that I just mixed. It's climbing the charts. It's killing it. And I wanted to show you guys how it was put together. Of course, how the mix happened, how the production was pieced together, how all the vocals came together. And just sort of demystify it a little bit. So without further ado, let's dig right into it. Before we get all the way started, we are using 145 voices. Which a stereo track is 2 voices, a mono track is 1, so that translates to probably about 100 tracks. We will just scroll down. Everything up top is the beat, and then we get into vocals. We get into vocals from here onward, and then of course we have our buses, and then our master fader down here, with all of our effects returns here. You'll notice some of the effects returns are printed. That came from the producers Take a Day Trip and Take Heath. And then these are sort of my effects buses here. You'll notice we have a new sort of look to Pro Tools here. Pro Tools just did an update, so we're using dark mode in Pro Tools. I'm still getting used to it. I like it so far, but it does take a little bit of adjustment. But we're going to stick with it for now and see how it goes. So let's just dive right into the audio, because that's what we're all here for. So we'll start, like all my sessions start, with the drums. All the drums are up top. You'll notice I color coordinated all the drums orange, and then there's 2 sort of effects things that I sort of group with drums, but they are like a slightly different color of orange. And we've got 8 tracks of drums. 2 effects tracks, like sound effects. We have 7 bass tracks, and a bunch of them are playing at once. So we're sort of going to break down how that works in reality. And then we have a couple other like sort of Moog bass hit things. They're lowish frequency, but I wouldn't really consider them basses, so to speak. And then we have a few synths here, 4 tracks of synths. And then we have these like little one-off, this is sort of an electric guitar thing, and there's a little banjo thing here, and we have a couple just one-off sounds, some risers and things like that. The producer tags, and then of course some other little sound effects. These were actually for the clean, so we're not actually going to be using those because we're going to listen to the dirty version of this. So we'll make those inactive for now, just so we don't get confused. And then we have a bunch of vocals. Let me just hide these real quick. And then we've got, 4 tracks of main lead vocals. We've got and then 4 tracks of ad-libs here, and they're all just little ad-lib moments and things like that. We've got 4 tracks of vocoder. We have 6 tracks of sort of hook backgrounds. These sort of land in the hook and the post hook. And then we have a couple background vocal buses, and this has, about 8 or 9 tracks. This one's got about 12, and so on and so forth. So let's break it all down. Let's start right at the top. Kick drum. There is 2 kick drums, although actually it's 1 kick drum and I just duplicated it. So let's listen to the first one, see what's on it. And let's just listen to the second one real quick. Yeah, so that's one of my, sort of, I don't want to call it signature because I'm sure lots of people do it, but one of the little tricks that I do with kick drums to get some more attack out of it. So, of course, this is the main kick drum. All we've done is duplicate that. These are identical, and then process the second one differently. So the first kick drum, it was pretty... just straight bass. And I like my kick drums to sort of exist across the frequency spectrum because I want to hear them on little earbuds and small speakers as well. So I did a ton of boosting, like 30 dB almost, or 25 or so dB, 26 and a bit, of everything over 1K. And there's not much there. So you'll see it's not actually doing a whole lot. But let's just see. Let's listen. Take everything off. See, that's like pretty low. And then we add this EQ. Now we have a little more of that high frequency presence. Then we have, I love this plugin, BX Boom by Brainworks. We have it in the mid setting and we've got it about 49%. Let's hear what that does. So a lot thumpier, right? Let me take it off again. So you can hear when I add it, you get a lot more low end thump. And then we have just a simple compressor, and it's probably not doing a ton, but let's hear. So what are we doing there? We're getting about 5 dB of compression, adding a little bit of punch here. The attack is sort of medium. The release is medium, nothing too crazy. And we pulled the mix down, so there's a bit of parallel stuff going on. But for the most part, you know, it's nothing crazy. It's a 3 ratio, and you know, the threshold is low enough to get about 5 dB of compression. So that's the main kick. And now halfway through, I'm going to add this high frequency kick that we created. So you'll hear that high frequency really helps cut through. Now, when you listen to the kick by itself, you may like it or not or otherwise, but once it's sort of combined in the entire track, you'll notice that the high frequency stuff in the kick really needs to cut through. So what do we do for this one? Well, we filtered out everything below 800 hertz and we're boosting more, you know, above sort of 900 there. And then we also have a gate on it. So we're not getting much of the tail, or, you know, sometimes you can have I don't want to say reverb. Sometimes drums have reverb on them, but just little bits of tail that is going to stand out. We wanted this to be really tight. So let's hear it. See, when I take that gate off, you're hearing more of that sort of the tail at the end of it. So now we're just getting that little like click, which is what we wanted. All right, cool. That's the kick drum. Moving on. We did some duplicate stuff on the snare as well. I received one snare track. I duplicated it. And this first snare track has actually nothing on it. You'll notice these plugins, they're all inactive. I think probably what I did is I tried to do something with it. And then I just realized, you know, it didn't need it. And we just did some parallel snare stuff. So let's hear the main snare by itself. Standard take Heath snare. It slaps. It sounds great. But I wanted to get a little more edge out of it. So we added this crush snare. Let's hear that by itself. So you'll hear it's like heavily compressed, getting a ton of compression on it. And what are we doing here? Just taking off a little bit of the top and actually boosting some bottom. So we're getting just a little bit of a thicker snare. So I'll play the original one. And then about halfway through, you'll see I hit solo on here, and that's going to add the second one. It's subtle, but it just fills it in enough. And again, in the context of the whole mix, those little things matter. Okay, moving on. Hi-hat. And you'll notice there's nothing on it. When something is produced well, you don't have to muck around too much. So nothing on the hi-hat, simple pattern, just basic trap hi-hat. We like it. Let's hear what this perk sound is doing. And again, you'll notice no effects on it. So there is some automation in this that was sent to me at part of the file. And you'll hear this is the left and right. And it's sort of panning from left. This, you know, the top track here is left, the bottom one here is right. So the left is a little louder, and then the right is a little louder, and then left. So it's doing some interesting panning stuff, but that was sent from the producer, and this is just sort of like a vocal mouth sound, like a wind sound, you could call it maybe. So so we like that. What else do we have? We have this ha sound. Again, no plugins on it. Let's hear it. And again, it's panning a little bit left and right. Again, came from the producers. And then we have this little rise sound here. And, you know, I'll sort of break down the sections a little later, but for the most part, that's just sounds like a kick drum, sort of a reverb kick drum that's in reverse. So we'll hear it one more time. There we go. What are we doing to it? Just filtering it out a bit. Let's hear it without any filter on it. A little bit brighter. So we're taking just a bit of the low and a bit of the high off, probably just to get it sit in the mix a little better. And then what other sounds do we have? We have these other sound effects. Let's hear this one. It's called Dow, but it's yeah, it's got some delay on it. It's one sound, and it's got a ping pong delay. So that delay you'll hear is going left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. We'll hear it one more time. And that sort of just, you know, wraps around your head when you're listening. So that's a cool little sound effect. And this last one is only happens one time. What does it do? Just like it's kind of like a echoey kick drum, and it's short. So and again, no effects on it. You know, when things are done well, you don't have to do too much, right? Okay, moving on. The 808, probably, other than the lead vocal, maybe the most important part of the record. All right, let's hear what we are doing on it. So we've got BDE on it, my new plugin. This was actually was it the first song? This may have been the first song I mixed using BDE. So, you know, there's history there. All right, let's hear what this 808 is doing. Let's actually make the waveforms a little smaller so we can kind of get a better sense of what they're doing. All right. All right, let's take everything off. Wow, that does a lot to the kick drum. Okay, so what are we doing? Let's just see what's after BDE so I can sort of explain it all together. Just a little bit of EQ. We're just taking everything below 26 hertz. So not really affecting the low end that you're going to hear, but it is getting rid of some of the stuff that's maybe taking space in the mix that we can't really hear as human beings. I do that a lot with sub basses and 808s. Just take off that bottom, you know, maybe everything below 30 hertz, and it really just does help give your mix a little more room to breathe. Okay, so BDE, what are we doing on it? Well, first of all, we have the mix at about 50%. We've got it set to the nuke setting, and the reason why you're hearing the attack, almost like a kick drum, come out of it, is because we're using this dynamic preservation stuff here. So let's just hear it back one more time, and you're going to see I'm going to move this range up to 0. And you'll hear how that affects the 808. So it's sort of shortening the tail a little bit, but it is maintaining the dynamics. It is increasing the punchiness of the drum. Now we are only applying distortion to everything above 109 hertz here. So the low lows, right, that we expect from an 808 are actually not being distorted at all. They are clean, and they are there to fill in that low space. We don't want to break it up too much, but we do want a little distortion, those low mids, and then sort of the mid-range frequencies here. We have a little bit of compression, not a whole lot, And other than that, we've just adjusted the input output, and that's about it. So that's the 808. Sounds great, and it sounds really awesome with BDE. Okay, we have another 808 layer. Let's hear that one. Okay, and we're not doing anything to it. That was a sort of a little bit of a distorted 808, not much low end in it, that the producers added, and it blends real nicely with this other one. Let's hear them both together. Yeah, this new 808, it adds a little bit more mid-range, and it really just helps fill in the mid-range from this one by itself. Okay, cool. So 2 808s. Let's hear what else we have on the basses. All right, so we have this, it's called New Bass. I didn't name these tracks. Take a Day Trip sent me the files, and I work with them a lot, and they know how I like my mixes to be set up. And so they like to name things in a common sense way. So, okay, let's hear what's on this new bass. Cool, so it's a synth bass. What are we doing to it? All right, we've got a bit of an interesting EQ, and we have this envelope shaper, which is just increasing the attack. So there's a little bit of attack on it. Let's take everything off and hear what it's doing without it. So here, once I added those two plugins, it really, you know, the clickiness comes through a lot. All right, let me get rid of the envelope shaper and just hear what the EQ is doing first. So yeah, there's a little boost in the lows, sort of maybe the upper section of the lows, you know, a little above 80 hertz. So not the super subby, you know, 40 hertz, 60 hertz stuff. And then we're taking off just the highest of the highs, but we do want a little bump in the sort of upper mid range here. So around, you know, 2400 hertz up to, you know, about 5000 or so. All right, so now halfway through, I'm going to add this. Once I hit bypass on that, you'll hear what this does. So you'll hear it's subtle. It just adds some nice clickiness, and that helps really punch through in the mix. Okay, moving on. What's on the next new bass track? New bass high. So I suspect it's an octave. That's exactly what it is an octave. And I believe I've probably copied both of these settings down. Let me just see, are they identical? Yep. Copied these settings down because I want them to work together. They were already working together. What I did not do, though, is boost the lows because we don't need to. This is not occupying those low frequencies. So let's hear them together. I'll start with the first one, and then after a bar or so, I'll add the second one. You'll see I just solo it over here. So again, they blend perfectly, but having that high frequency just fills in a little more space. When you sort of look at this track, there's not a ton of things going on. And so these subtle things that you know, enhance the mid-range or whatnot, these are really key in getting a full sounding mix. Okay, moving on. We have two more basses, and these only happen in the verse, sort of the second half of the verse sections. So let's hear where they are coming in. Let's play the whole section there. I know I haven't played too much of the track, but I felt like because this mix, the beat stuff wasn't like too complex, I thought I would go through all the beat stuff first and then really, when I'm breaking down the vocals, sort of play the whole thing and just see how it all fits in context. But because these basses only come in certain parts, I want to hear why they're there, okay? So let's play from about here. We're going to have 2 bars, and then we're going to hear this sine wave bass come in.
I'm wrong, you always do a rocket. I got the biggest damn song, fuck the charts, sis, I don't need them. They wanna know if I be last done. Bitch, even if I started flopping, that be fashion. Popping up in movies, ain't no Nazi bitches ass done. Hee, I'm bad as Michael Jackson. Hey.
That's so catchy. I love that dun 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 part. We'll get to that in a second. But if you could hear, yeah, about a few bars into what I started playing, you had more of a sustained bass. Now, when you look at it, you'll see there is bass notes, but they're happening more frequently, so it's helping drive that verse forward. So let's hear it soloed and see what do we have on it. We have an R bass, and we have a FabFilter Pro C. Let's just look at them both. Pull them both up, and let's play this bass. Cool. So we're just tightening this up with a little bit of compression, and we do actually have a side chain that is triggering this compressor, and the R bass is just adding a little subharmonic bass around 58 hertz. So nothing too complex there. But yeah, we have, you'll notice the kick drum pattern. Well, first of all, there's no kick drum in the hook and up to the first half of the verse. The kick drum comes in the second half, and we want it triggering that sine bass so that the kick is really the punchiness and this sine bass is sort of filling in the space. So why don't we listen to the kick? You'll see here's my I'm setting this to key 1, and then when we look at this compressor, key 1 is the side chain, and then we're going to the external side chain here. So well, I might as well leave that up, and let's just see how this is interacting with the kick. So I've got the 2 kicks soloed as well as this bass. Yeah, and it really helps glue it all together. Let's see what happens if we take this compressor off. You'll hear it really does help glue it together. Okay, cool. Moving on. Underneath that sine wave bass, we have another one, and this is much, much quieter. Let's hear it soloed. So not much low end, a bit of low mids, but heavily distorted, and I suspect we're using BDE. Yes, we are. Very heavily distorted, but the mix is somewhat lower. Let's hear what that's doing. Just giving it a little bit more energy. It's a low sound, so and of course this sine wave bass is taking up more of those low end frequencies, but like I said earlier with these basses, this second high frequency one really helps fill in the space and glue them together, and this does the same. So let's hear the first one, and then I will add this second one a few bars in. Yeah, a little bit higher frequency, and that's going to help cut through on the smaller speakers, earbuds, things of that nature that don't have a lot of bass. Okay, let's see what is the last of the bass sounds. So that is just a 2-note Moog sound. Oh, we have a little bit more here, but that's sort of happening right in the dun, dun, dun part.
Michael Jackson. Hey, it's all up.
There you go. Yeah, it's just sort of filling in that, emphasizing that dun, dun, dun. Okay, and then it happens again in verse 2, but now it's playing throughout. Let's hear what it's doing in verse 2. Okay, so yeah, that's sort of just complementing this other bass playing basically the same thing, just has a different texture. And this just sort of lends itself to building up the song, right? You'll notice you don't hear it in the first verse. You do hear it in the second verse. And that's just sort of, that's just a good production technique. Like you want that second verse to feel slightly different, a little bit more energy. We're halfway through the song now. So you just want to give the song a little bit of a lift so it doesn't feel too linear and boring. So that's all that is doing. You'll notice there's a bunch of drops and things like that. These are just common, common techniques that we want to emphasize apart. Let's just hear what these drops are doing since we can see them right now.
And I snuck into the game, came in on a horse. I pulled a gimmick, I admitted I got no room.
So what do? We literally muted everything for that drop, and we just have the snare is like executes the drop, right? Once that snare hits, everything mutes. And then all we have is that sort of mouth like whoosh sound. And that was a drop that I did and I sent to everybody and said, hey, do we like this? And everyone liked it, so we kept it. Let's hear it one more time.
On a horse, I pulled a gimmick, I admitted I got no room.
And I thought that was cool. The snare sort of makes everything stop, and then this whoosh sound brings everything back in, and then on the next kick drum, everything comes right back in. Really simple technique. I think every producer or artist or mixer, when you're doing a mix or wrapping up your song, go through and see what sort of really simple things you can do with mutes and things of that nature to sort of enhance a moment of a song, right? Okay, moving on. We have these 3 Moog hits here. Let's hear what they're doing. I'll play. There's no effects on them, so I'll just play them solo one at a time. That's low and very quiet. Ton of reverb on that one. Sounds like the same sound, but this one is more higher frequency and more reverb. And finally this one. So that's sort of the higher frequency Moog sound that's it's like a synth bass, and it's just accentuating rather the dun dun dun, which to me is like the hook of the song. Like that dun 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 part really, it just like glues the whole song together. It's like that hooky moment. It's super memorable. It's super shareable. And yeah, it makes you remember the song. It's that ear candy, that hook that makes you want to play this song over and over again. Okay. Anyways, moving on. We have one main synth and really just one supporting synth. We have a couple other ones over here, but let's hear the main synth and what are we doing to it? So all we're doing is a little bit of compression, and all that's doing is sort of bringing out some of the space, sort of the stuff in between the attacks of each note, sort of bringing out the tails a bit. Okay, so not much happening there, but a really cool sound. A lot of this was obviously probably heavily processed before it made its way to me when the producers were putting the song together, but really cool sound. We like that. All right, what is this next synth? Again, what are we doing to that? Some subtle compression just to really glue it all together. Let's hear it. So that compressor is just leveling it out, bringing those quiet moments out front so it's just more tame and has a more consistent level throughout. Let's hear those two things together because they obviously work really well together. So I'll play the first synth and then about a bar in, I'll add the second one. So you'll notice this synth is just playing the vocal melody. Now, I don't know which one came first. I've done this plenty of times in my own songs. Sometimes the vocal melody comes first, and then you add a synth to duplicate it and sort of reinforce that melody. And other times you have a synth there, and then you hear it, you like it, and then you realize, huh, maybe the vocal should just copy that synth because that synth is doing sort of a lead part. So this is a really simple technique and really effective because it really makes that lead melody just get glued into your brain because you're hearing it from the bell, you're hearing it from the vocal, they're reinforcing one another. It's a very simple technique and very effective in a lot of songs. Okay, moving on. In the second verse, we have two other synths. Let's just play them. They have no effects on them. I've done nothing to them other than a few drops, some little muted sections here. Let's hear what they're doing. It's got a bit of reverb on it. Nice, cool sound. I don't know what, it's like a Wurlitzer, I guess. Okay, and what's this other synth doing? Also really cool. It's like a bell sound, and it's sort of, it's kind of doing almost like a harmony of this. Like it's not totally copying it, but it's sort of doing what this earlier sound does. Let's hear how they glue with the main synth. So let's play the main synth, and then right after this drop, I'll add the whirly, and then we'll do the same for the next section. Yeah, so it just like sort of does a bit of a harmony thing. It's subtle. Again, all of this happens in that second verse. And like I said before, you want that second verse to have a bit of a lift. Not too much. It can't be as big as the chorus, but we just want it to feel a little bit lifted, a little more energy from the first verse. Because songs are stories, and we want that story to go somewhere, right? If a song is just linear all the way like this, it gets very boring very quickly. And so that's why we do things like that. Okay, moving on. We have this track called Rock Shit, and that's just a one-off effect. I'm doing a bunch of stuff to it. Let me just play the section so you understand.
It's the genre on you always do a rocket. I got the biggest down song.
So it's just that guitar. Let's take everything off and hear what it sounds like before we did anything. So cool, a little simple, a little thin. So what do? I pitched it down, format shifted it down, and lowered the mix and added some drive. So let's hear what that does. Now we add it. So that gives that low octave. Then we have a compressor. We're actually increasing the output, increasing the volume a little bit. And then we have just some EQ, taking some low end out. The low end was going to get in the way of the 808 a bit, so we took that out, but the low octave is still there. So you hear, you still get the low octave, but none of the bass from it. That's going to fight with our kick and our 808. Okay. Well, actually, the 808's not playing kick and our main synth bass. And that rock shit sound is also, there's an ad-lib, which it makes sense to jump to this vocal here real quick. I'm not doing too much to it, just filtering out some lows. So that's just Nas humming along to it. So it's actually two sounds that really get that effect. So let's hear it one more time.
It's the genre on you always do a rocket. I got the biggest down song. Fuck.
Now let's hear that ad-lib by itself. Cool. There you go. All right. What else? All right. We have this one-off banjo sound. Again, this is just a one-time effect. It happens one time in the song. What's it doing? Cool, and we know where that happens, right? We'll play it back.
I'm bad as Michael Jackson. Hey, it's...
And you'll notice that's also accentuating the melody of the lead vocal. I'm bad as Michael Jackson. I'm a horrible singer. I was definitely had some off notes there, but why don't we just solo the lead vocal and you'll hear it.
I'm bad as Michael Jackson.
Those are just copying one another, same melody. Okay, what are we doing to the banjo? A bunch of stuff. We have Slate's VMR on here, bit of EQ, bit of compression, bit more compression, and some high and low stuff. This is actually probably a variation. Yeah, it's a variation of a preset that I created called just really good lead vocal. And to be honest, it works good on a lot of things more than just vocals. But let's take it off and see what the banjo sounds like without it. Now we'll add it back. So just brings the quiet moments out and a little brighter, just a little tighter in the mix. Okay, moving on. We have another synth sound. This happens once in the song at the end. Let's hear it. So that's part of, there's like a drop, sort of almost like DJ, like repeat section that happens. Let's hear it. I think there's just, yeah, a little bit of compression on it. Nothing too crazy here. Let's hear it.
I can't even close my eyes, and I don't know why. I guess I don't like surprise.
So that synth chop is just sort of accentuating that kick drum fill that happens there. Let's hear it. Like real simple stuff. Okay, moving on. We have these sounds in the beginning. These are just producer tags. So we got Take Keith. And one of the cool things about this that I thought was a really great idea, the producers were mulling over how to do the producer tags because there's 2 producers on it. And I thought this was great. This is one, they had 3 different ideas. This was my favorite. And I think mostly everyone's favorite. But we tried different options and this was the one that everyone sort of chose. But you have sort of a mashup of Take Keith and Day Trip. So let's hear them together.
Take Keith. Took it to 10.
It's kind of cool. Take Keith took it to 10. It's a nice little collab. So they need to do that more often, I guess. So that's a really cool one. These other tracks here, they're muted. These were the dirty versions. For some reason, I've got the clean ones up, but we had a dirty version option there, which we didn't use. Okay, moving on. Then we have this woo sound. Let's play that. Simple sounds, got reverb and delay on it. It's all printed. I have no effects on it. Okay, cool. So that is the whole beat. Now let's get into the vocals, because the vocals is where things gets a little more detailed and complex. So let's start with Nas's lead chorus vocal. All right, let's hear it.
Hey, it's a holiday. I got hoes on hoes and they out of control, yeah.
Okay, sounds great. What are we doing to it? Well, the first thing you'll notice, I do this on everything. We're sort of, let's make this track a little bit bigger so everyone can see. Okay, what are we doing? Well, first, there's a ton of clip gain automation. So we're getting rid of the mute or the breaths, not getting rid of them totally, but you know, this breath is down 5 dB. This is down 7.5 dB. Sort of tails are, you know, this last word here is pushed up in volume. And this is, you'll notice on all the vocal tracks, there's, you know, edits throughout all of them. This is just common vocal rides, basically, making sure every syllable of the vocal hits at the same apparent level. That doesn't mean the same volume, just, you know, in comparison to the track, you want them to sort of feel like the same volume. Okay, so what are we doing with effects on this? Well, we have a bit of auto-tune on there. The song is in C minor. We've got it set to alto tenor and the retune speed is 12. Pretty simple stuff. We have a de-esser. we have the virtual mix rack using my really good lead preset, slightly modified. The high lift is a bit lower. The low lift is a little lower as well. And then we have a bit of corrective EQing with the Pro Q3. And then we have some de-essing after that. And then we have a bit of actually multi-band compression. I don't always do this, but sometimes some songs need it. And in this case, it needed it. So let's try to go through all that and see why. I'll leave the auto-tune on. And then this trim thing is just plus 1 dB. That was sort of a decision, a last minute decision, like let's turn all the vocals up 1 dB. And that was sort of, less important with respect to the mix, but that's how we sort of finished it. All right, so let's hear this with no effects.
Hey, it's a holiday. I got hoes on hoes and they out of control, yeah. Hey, this another way. All my niggas on go and I hope that you know it.
So definitely a fairly large improvement there. And let's hear what we're using the B reverb. If you have watched any of my other tutorials, you know I keep all my reverbs down here to be organized. The B reverb is literally the default preset on Valhalla plate. Really not that complex. So it's just a plate with a bit of a longer tail. All right, so let's hear what it's all doing together.
Hey, it's a holiday. I got hoes on hoes and...
Oh, actually, you know what? Now I'm remembering something. We actually have the B reverb muted for the first chorus. We wanted it very dry to cut through, so you really hear what he's saying. You really get the hook, in your brain, and then the subsequent hooks have reverb on them. So let's hear what those sound like.
Hey, it's a holiday. I got hoes on hoes and they out of control.
There you go. We have a bit of slap delay and a bit of doubling, not too much. Let's see if you can actually hear it, and I'll do that on the first hook where the reverb is muted. So I'll mute those, and then halfway through I'll turn those on like that, and let's see if you can hear what they're doing.
Hey, it's a holiday. I got hoes on hoes and they out of control, yeah. Hey, this another way. All my niggas on go and I hope that you know it.
Super subtle. I can hear it in my studio. It's just adding a really, really small bit of stereo. It's sort of filling in the vocal just a little bit with these very short stereo delays. But again, the volume's really, really low. So you're not going to hear a delay. That would be distracting. We just want to feel it. So it's sort of like just enhancing the vocal just a bit. Okay, let's sort of go through and just see. Let me take all these effects off and, let's see how I built this vocal. So I'm going to add the de-esser first.
Hey, it's a holiday. I got hoes on hoes and they out of control, yeah. Hey, this another way.
So just taming some of the S's. There's not a ton there, but it's just catching some of the ones that poke out. VMR is doing the most. Let's hear what VMR is doing.
Hey, it's a holiday. I got hoes on hoes and they out of control, yeah.
So we filtered out everything below 103 hertz. We've boosted about 10K, about 4.5 dB. We've boosted, 4.5K, 4.6K, a couple dB there. We have cut out a little bit of 2 and a bit, 2,230 hertz. We've cut a few dB, 3 dB out of that, and that's about it. Then we're running it through the distressor, getting some nice compression out of it. Then this second compressor is just taming whatever this didn't catch. And then finally we have some just high frequency, low frequency lifts. So let me take these off and let's build this one at a time. And by the way, this is just a little bit of saturation on the pre, not doing much at all. So let's just hear without the EQ. We'll add the EQ and then go step by step.
Hey, it's a holiday. I got hoes on hoes and they out of control, yeah. Hey, this another way. All my niggas on go and I hope that you know it. Hey, it's a holiday. I got hoes on hoes and they out of control, yeah.
This actually glues it all together. Adding that little high lift, I'm guessing this is around 12K. It doesn't really tell you, but I suspect that it's doing a little 12K boost or something. Maybe even higher, might be 16K. and then a little bit of like body to the vocal with this low lift, not too much, but that stuff really helps that vocal come to life. Okay, so let's continue after VMR.
Hey, it's a holiday. I got hoes on hoes and they out of control, yeah. Hey, this another way.
So I suspect I added this second EQ during the later stages of the mix process because there were sort of two directions for this song. Is this a pop song or is it a hip hop song? It's kind of both, but you want to mix them differently depending on what your focus is. And we ultimately opted that this is really a pop song, even though it's got hip hop drums and 808s, and kick drum, you know, all the things that represent a hip hop record. But it's sort of, we mixed it like a pop record. And so that was a decision that sort of came halfway through. And, you know, we're boosting a little bit more of the high frequency stuff, taking a little bit more of the lows out. And that I suspect was just like a creative choice we made later. And it's always easy rather than going back to the drawing board. Well, we know we like where it was, and we know we want to make it a little bit brighter, maybe give a little more boosts around 1K, which is more about the presence that we all hear. And so we made some adjustments to it. Okay, so that's what Pro Q3 is doing. Then, you know, when you add that high frequency stuff, you're eventually just bringing out more of those the sibilant stuff. So we added another de-esser, and that is not doing much, but just addressing around 12K. So let's hear what that's doing.
Hey, it's a holiday. I got hoes on hoes and they out of control, yeah.
Just catching those little S's that pop through, not doing too much. Now let's hear what Pro MB is doing.
Hey, it's a holiday. I got hoes on hoes and they out of control, yeah. Hey, this another way.
It's kind of just, I mean, it's just taming certain frequency bands and sort of just gluing everything a little bit more together. And then, of course, we have the trim, which is just boosting the signal by 1 dB. Okay, so that's the main lead vocal. I spent a lot of time on that because we don't want to go through that for every vocal. I suspect, for the most part, these are probably all processed the exact same. Let's just see. Is the MB the same on all of them? It probably is because, you know, if it's all recorded on the same microphone, you want those to maintain consistency, then you just copy it down. Okay, so that's what we did for the lead vocals. All right, let's hear these ad-libs. We don't have the Pro MB on the ad-libs. What else are we doing different on the ad-libs? Anything? No, that's like, well, the EQ is a little bit different on the ad-libs. We took out a little more of the lows so that they live in a different space. And then actually we just said, this was probably a later change as well, where we just said, no, let's just make them telephone ad-libs. And so that's just a telephone effect. Let's hear them.
Pop, pop. But it's our shit.
So yeah, you can hear it's bright. It sounds like a radio. This little pop here, I've got some pan automation. So I'm taking the right side and moving it to the left, and then the left side moving it to the right. So here the first one is in your left ear, the second one is in your right ear. I'll play it back again.
Pop, pop.
So that was just a creative choice that I made. All right, moving on. We've got our ad-libs done. Let's hear what else. There's a couple other ad-lib tracks. Let's hear this one. That's right, we already went through that one. Let's hear what else we have. Just a format shifted high frequency It's got some of the plate reverb and some long delay on it, so you'll hear a little bit of an echo. So that's just running to our long delay down here. Where are we at? The long delay, what's on it? A quarter note delay. The little lo-fi button, which I love, that basically cuts out everything above 6K. And then we're making it stereo, so it doesn't sort of land on top. And then we're actually sending to the A reverb, which is our large hall, which is a Valhalla vintage verb. Okay. So, moving on. What do we have here? There's one more final ad-lib ish sound. Let's hear what that's doing.
They don't know us today,
So that's like right at the end of the song. It's just like sort of a harmony. Let's hear how it matches with the lead.
Did I play? They gon' know us today,
So it's just a harmony. That's all it is. And we're just sending it to the A reverb, the large hall. That's just so that it has a different reverb from the lead. They live in different spaces a little bit. This is more reverbed out, longer tail, warmer reverb, not as bright either. Okay. Moving on. We have 4 vocoder tracks, and there is some automation on the bus for this. Let me just zoom into that real quick. So there's just certain lines that poked out more than others, and so we're just lowering those lines or raising the other ones. Either way, just leveling them out. Nothing too complex. Let's hear what these vocoders are doing. Let's solo them. You know what I'll do? I'll solo one at a time, and we'll build it.
I can't even close my eyes, and I don't know, I guess I don't like surprises. I can't even stay away from the game that I play. They gon' know us today.
So 4 different vocoders. They're all doing something different. Let me play like maybe half a bar of each.
I can't even close my eyes. I can't even close my eyes. I can't even close my eyes, and I don't know. I can't even close my eyes, and I don't know.
So each one has its own unique characteristics, and then blended together, they sound pretty cool. Okay, what are we doing on those? Well, each one has this ambient orbit on it, and what we're doing, this was actually something really cool that I did, that initially in the mix, it was way more obvious, and then we sort of tamed it down a bit. But you'll notice the automation on this is staggered. So we're just going to look at this first one, and you'll see this spin around, and this represents the automation. So let's hear it.
I can't even close my eyes, and I don't know, I guess I don't like surprises. I can't even stay away from the game that I play. They gon' know us today.
Now, if you're listening in speakers, you're not going to hear that in a too obvious of a way. It's just going to sound like it's panning left and right a bit. But put headphones on and then listen to that again. Go back and listen to that section again, and you'll hear it actually wraps around your head. So what I did with this is, if I had all of the automation lined up perfectly, it would be way too obvious and might be too in your face for this section. But what I did is I staggered them each a bar, right? So each one is sort of staggered a bar over, like that's one bar, and then that's another bar to the next one. That's another bar to the next one. And they're each staggered a bar until they go back, which basically means if you're looking at this, those 4 tracks at any given time, one is at the left side, one is in the front, one is in the right, and one is in the back. So they're completely wrapped around your head, but then they're all spinning around the head. So it's not too obvious, but you do feel like you're almost like you're surrounded by people singing and you're just spinning your chair, kind of. So you're getting different frequencies at different moments in different parts of your in your ear. And this was the first time I'd ever tried this technique. It turned out really cool. So what I'll do is, now that you know what's happening, let me solo them, and then put your headphones on and listen to this section in headphones, and you tell me if you can hear what's going on. Just leave me a comment about it in the description or in the comment boxes below. All right, here we go.
I can't even close my eyes, and I don't know, I guess I don't like surprises. I can't even stay away from the game that I play. They gon' know us today.
Kind of cool, right? So I thought so. Anyways, that was my little moment that I really that was just sort of me just flexing a little bit of creativity. Okay, so that's what the vocoder's doing. How are we processing it? A little bit of EQ. We're boosting just around 5K, 4900 hertz. But see this little S? It's like a blue curve. We're just boosting the sides, none of the mids, just the sides. Okay. Then we are doing some basically de-essing. This is a Pro MB. We're basically just de-essing it. I don't know why I use the Pro MB. Sometimes I just randomly want to use different plugins instead of a proper de-esser. But this is basically just de-essing at whatever, 4.5K. Okay. Then we have a little bit of compression, and we're doing some stereo imaging with my plugin Spread. And we're just boosting the highs. We're spreading the highs more than the mids, and the mids a little more than the lows. So it sort of fans out. The lower frequencies, they're still spread out, they're wide, but gradually as the frequency spectrum gets higher, those sections sort of open up. So that is using Spread. And let's take everything off, solo it one more time, and then about a bar in, I'll add everything just so we can hear what it's doing.
I can't even close my eyes, and I don't know, I guess I don't like surprises. I can't even stay away from the game that I play. They gon' know us today.
And there's a little bit of B reverb. So what's that doing? It's tightening it up. It's making it a little bit brighter. It's smoothing out the top a bit. So good stuff there. All right. What else do we have? All right, we have these hook background tracks, and let's just hear what they're doing.
I got hoes on hoes and they out of control, yeah.
And then let's hear this section here.
I can't even close my eyes, and I don't know why, I guess I don't like surprises.
So this is just a hard pan left and right, and then on these like sort of call and response things, the response is in a much lower tone, lower frequency. And what are we doing to those? We're actually boosting a little bit more of the lows there. There's a bit of auto-tune on, and the retune speed is set to 0. So it's meant to sound like very robotic. So let's hear those again.
Close my eyes.
So you can hear really tight, really robotic. And then again, this is just sort of doubling the lead vocal. And we have one to the left, one to the right, and then you have the lead vocal right in the center. And that's just a simple technique to make your hook stand out. And what are we doing on the processing? Same as before, a de-esser. We're using a different EQ this time, but some compression, some EQ. We're rolling off some of the lows. Then we have an RVox, which is just a second compressor. And then we're doing some stereo imaging stuff here and some high frequency boosting. And then we have another de-esser. I use multiple de-essers all the time. It's sort of a common thing. And then we are boosting some highs, but there was some, annoying frequencies that we're poking out. So we're cutting the annoying ones out, but we're boosting everything around the annoying ones there. So let's see what that does. Let's just take everything off and add them all back.
I can't even close my eyes, and I don't know why, I guess I don't like surprises. I can't even stay away from the game that I...
So just brings it all to life, and smooths out those vocals and makes them stand out and feel sort of polished and finished. Okay, moving on. Nothing too complex to see there. Let's hear what some of these backgrounds are doing.
Hey, it's another one.
So these are just some harmonies. Let's hear what they are doing in context.
Hey, it's another way. All my niggas on go, and I hope that you know it.
So there's just some harmonies. Let's hear them first.
Hey, this another one.
And then the two at the bottom here below it.
Hey, this another one.
Oh, let's mute these. They're a little bit louder.
Hey, it's another way.
So that's a lower harmony. I think that's just copying the lead. Sounds like it's just duplicating the lead. And then we have this harmony. I don't know what it is, maybe a fifth or something there.
Hey, it's another one.
Then what is this harmony doing?
Hope that you know it.
So yeah, again, just a little harmony thing to sort of add a little more depth to some of these melodies. And processing, a bit of de-essing, standard lead vocal stuff. Again, EQ, bit of compression, and some, frequency enhancement at the top and bottom. And as far as effects, we have the B reverb, which is a plate again. We have the long delay, which is just a quarter note with some reverb on it, and then just some slap delay and doubling. The slap delay is probably around like 50 milliseconds, like maybe like 45 on one side and 55 on the other, or maybe 55 and 65. And then the doubler is like much shorter. It's like probably 10 milliseconds and 20 milliseconds or something around that nature. We can actually just quickly check. Let's see. Doubler. Oh, look at how close I am. All right, so 7 milliseconds on the left, 20 milliseconds on the right. And the slap is, 65, 66 milliseconds on the left and 57 milliseconds on the right. So, nothing too crazy there. Just adding a little bit of sort of filling in the sides a bit, and just sort of reinforcing the vocal. Usually I go subtle with that stuff. Okay, what else do we have? We have this Sky Ad-lib. This was somebody who was working on the track with them. What are we doing to it?
Hey, it's a holiday.
Okay, so what does that have on it? Well, that's got my plugin, The Sauce. What am I doing? Just format shifting down. Why, though? Let's hear it.
Hey, it's a holiday.
So the reason I did that is because that vocal by itself didn't blend well with Nas. Nas has a pretty deep voice, and so format shifting it down just helped it blend in with Nas's voice a bit more. So let's hear if we can hear what that's doing. I'll play all the backgrounds.
Hey, it's a holiday. Hey, it's a holiday.
See, if I take that off, it kind of pokes out too much, and I didn't really like it. So we just format shift that down, and now it blends with Nas a bit more. Then we have this bus. Jenna did some vocals. Let's hear those.
Hey, it's a holiday.
So this is a big stack with some harmonies, and sounds like she's far away from the mic. But you'll also notice a bit sort of muffled. That's because I have the sauce on that as well, and also format shifting down again to blend better with Nas's voice. And I'm also adding a bit of a room tone reverb. So we'll take the sauce off. Everything else is, again, just simple. I don't want to go through this every time, but just this is my vocal chain that I like. Everything is adjusted for the vocal, of course. But the only thing really different about this is the sauce. So we've got the sauce off now. It's bypassed. Let's hear it.
Hey, it's a holiday.
Now with.
Hey, it's a holiday.
That blends a lot better with Nas. It's some of the high frequencies are taken out because we format shifted it down. Also, we've put some space in it. We've put it in a room, so it sort of like accentuates that sort of that it's far from the mic sort of sound. All right, so that's what we're doing there. What else do we have? We have a couple like verse add like doubles and stuff. Let's hear what they're doing.
Hey, pop shit, but I top shit. Do a rocket.
Okay, so that's just like doubles. Again, hard pan left, hard pan right, and again, similar vocal effects, right? Standard stuff. Okay, moving on. What do we have? In verse 2, we have some other ones. Are they just doing the same thing? Let's just see.
Came in on a horse. I got no remorse.
Yeah, basically same thing. Let's hear what these last two are doing at the end.
They try to next me, but I'm blessed. No flex, but my checks giving veterans. And I'm sexy. They wanna sex me.
So this is like a high harmony, high octave, and Nas is singing that like in a much sort of more aggressive way, and I love that. This harmony, I don't think it's a harmony. This background vocal is really important to lifting that second verse. And remember, I talked to you guys earlier about this. You want songs to grow as they move. This is a great example of how do we make that second verse have a lift. So let's hear it in context. I'll play it from the beginning of the verse, and you'll hear how important this background vocal is.
Snuck into the game, came in on the horse. I pulled the gimmick, I admit it, I got no remorse. Nobody tried to let me in, nobody opened doors. I kicked the motherfuckers down, they didn't have a choice. Dun dun dun, they tried to next me, ayy, but I'm blessed, see, ayy, no flex, but my checks giving vetties, ayy, and I'm sexy, they wanna sex me, pop.
So it's subtle, but having that higher energy moment really does help lift the end of this section of the verse. So very, very important. Okay, what else do we have? Dun, dun, dun. Love this. Let's hear it.
Dun, dun, dun.
Okay, so this was actually something that I printed. Let's see if I can, where do I have it? Let's see. Okay, so let's pull these out just to see what they're doing. So how did I do these? Basically this was a fairly large session. They all had auto-tune. We loved how it sounded once I got through it. So I basically just printed them and processed it. So now it's just one track. But what are we doing on them? Let's pull them out. And they're also all frozen. So there's auto-tune on them. And then these low ones here, we're boosting the lows, I'm almost sure of. Let's unfreeze. Because everything else is just auto-tune. Yeah, we're boosting the lows crazy, like 8 dB. And you'll notice, like, all of them are edited. Now, you're not going to see it on these, but I'll just show you. Like, if I take these, if I unfreeze these. So all of them are edited perfectly so that they begin and end exactly on the one, right? Or, well, they begin all exactly on the one. So these were all nudged around to all hit perfectly. And that's why it sounds so great when it's full. All right, so why don't we just go through and hear what each layer is doing. They're all panned hard left and right. So, you know, each one is in twos basically. So this is a left and a right, a left and a right, and then, are these on a group? Well, yeah. Why don't I just unfreeze all of them for now? Yeah, so there you go. Let's hear them all, two at a time. Here we go. Here's the first two. Oh. Oh, I see. Sorry. Here we go. This is how we're processing them. Okay.
Dun, dun, dun.
Right? Really punchy. I wanted that to be really punchy, and you hear it. Now let's hear these lows.
Dun, dun, dun.
Man, he can get real low with his voice. And then we push that up a lot, and that's how you get that really full dun, dun, dun. Let's just see what happens if we take that off, how much it changes it.
Dun, dun, dun.
Now with it.
Dun, dun, dun.
Like, it's almost like an instrument. There's so much bass in it. All right, let's hear what else. There's a group on these. Let's sort of take the groups off there. So that's Jenna as well. She's just sort of humming the notes. And there's a harmony there. So that's all. Let's hear those harmonies together. And now we add Nas. Now Nas's main ones. There you go. That's how we get the dun dun dun. It seems simple. We will hide and make them inactive. Seems simple because I had it as just one track, but actually there was a ton of work that went into getting that to sound the way that it did. Love it though. Okay, moving on. We have these A's.
Hey, hey.
So we just got some reverb on them, some long delay, and some slap delay and doubling. Nothing too crazy there. Although, again, this was something that there was actually a bunch of processing on it. Let's just show it. So there's a bunch of processing on it. And then, again, I just grouped it down to one thing. So I suspect this is just Nas doing the A, 10 times. from different parts of the room, different sound in his voice, and that's how it sounds like a bigger sort of stack.
Hey.
You hear some lows in there, you hear some highs, so that's what we did there. I guess, you know, why not? We can quickly bring these to life and just hear what they were doing. Okay, and again, these were all frozen, so we will unfreeze. Okay, let's just hear what the A's are doing. Here's the first one.
Hey.
Here's the second one.
Hey.
That one's panned left. This one's panned right.
Hey.
So we have a center and a left and right, all the same note.
Hey. Hey.
Now let's hear what these ones are doing.
Hey.
So we actually have 5.
Hey, but I'm
Messing up here. So these first 5 are all the same. 2 are panned left, 2 are panned right, 1's panned center.
Hey.
And then these are all lows. I suspect these 5 are all the same.
Hey. Hey.
So real simple. We have a high and a low octave, and both have 5. 2 left, 2 right, 1 center. 2 left, 2 right, 1 center. All right, cool. Simple. And again, what effects am I putting on it? Same normal vocal effects, but we have a retro color on it with the sad piano preset, which is just adding a little bit of like, there's some filtering, it's wobbling a bit. There is some reverb on it, and that's what's giving us the most of the space there. It's actually that more than it is this reverb. Well, it's both, but
Hey. Hey.
let's take retro color off and hear what that was doing.
Hey. Hey.
Actually a lot.
Hey. Hey.
So it sounds sort of like old school kind of, and it's in the back. We don't want it to fight with the lead vocal, so that's why we do that. We filter it out, we put a bunch of reverb on it, and then it lives in its own world, and it's not going to fight with your lead vocal in any way. Okay, cool. So let's hide and make those inactive. And that's basically, we come to the end of the song. There's only a few other things to go over, and that is these sort of effects returns. These were effects that Day Trip sent me. Some of them are delay throws like this. And this.
I got foes on foes and they out of control,
So these are just like little effects that they did that, you know, it made sense to print them and send them to me rather than me trying to recreate them. Because, you know, if you got the vibe of the song right, there's no sense in me sort of reinventing the wheel. And then this is just a main delay.
Hey, it's a holiday. I got foes on foes and they out of control,
And the reason I kept this is because you'll see there's different parts where it gets louder and quieter. These louder parts are all delay throws that they did. And it would be just very time consuming for me to, you know, recreate each one of these exactly the way that they had it at their levels. So I was just like, send me your delay throws as a bus or as a single stereo track, the return, and I'll just include it. So that's that. That is Holiday by Lil Nas X. Really fun song. The best Christmas song of the year, if I may say so myself, if you want to call it a Christmas song. I don't know if you can. Although he was Santa in the music video, so. But a really fun song, an amazing talent in Lil Nas X, and the producers Take a Day Trip and Tay Keith really crushed the production on this one. So I love this. If you guys like it, make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment, do what you gotta do. Until next time, I am DJ Swivel, and this was In the Mix. Peace.